Welcome everybody to UTC plus 8. Can you believe that we are 19 hours into SLUGME 6 and we're still going strong? In this session, Fadi is going to take us through Reclaim Your Computer Efficiency. And Fadi and his team will be available in the live chat during the session. So this is a reminder, use that live chat, let us know where you are, let us know what you think of the event. Make sure to reach out here and ask any questions if you have any. And this session is great because it's a reminder that as we expand onto the 3D Experience platform, as the SolidWorks family of products moves from a strictly desktop platform to a cloud-based platform, this session talks a lot about other operating systems and specifically things like Unix and Linux and installing Ubuntu, some other things that become more relevant as we're able to run our products in a browser. And many of our products, things like XDesign and Xshape, some of the products we've already seen in SLUGME 6 are entirely browser-based and are really operating system agnostic. So again, this session has a lot to offer, learning about some other operating systems. So enjoy, have fun, and we'll talk to you in the live chat.
Greetings everyone, my name is Fadi Atallah and I'm a mechanical engineer researching in composite materials at Imperial College London and previously in additive manufacturing at Cardiff University. Given a brief background about composite materials, if you're already not familiar with the topic, they are ones which are important for creating light structures stronger than either of the mixed constituents. So it would consist of a fiber layer inside a matrix where these are physically mixed together to make a low density and stiff component. This mixture is stronger than both the fibers and matrix on their own. Our research starts from SolidWorks in designing the laminate, setting its coordinate system, and then sticking the plies on top of each other and exporting the matrices to a simulation software where the materials, constraints, and nodes and elements are all assigned. Then we take all this data, export it, and we start the programming work, which eventually finishes by sticking ultrasonic waves on the edges, which would allow us to detect any cracks, detect any failures before they happen. Practically saying, the following scenario is extremely helpful to obtain such structural health conditions for composites buried underground or very tall structures. So we strike a wave from an end, and as it propagates along through the structure, it eventually returns with its detections. Still, we're also working on programming and testing a machine learning algorithm which would understand that wave response and accordingly identify it. My other research interest is in evaluating the porosity and surface roughness of additive manufactured aluminum parts, mainly saying in optimizing 3D printer settings in a way to optimize the porosities that would affect the material's density and surface roughness. And once they're minimized, we're aiming to make usage of the following materials within the aerospace and automotive industry, requiring minimal tolerances. I'm a SolidWorks champion and certified professional advanced user of SolidWorks Design, Xshape, and Visualize software, with experience in sheet metal drawing tools and weldments. I'm currently also happy to be working on designing the wings for George's wheelchair, working along with Kirby and Jonathan in there, with cooperation with the SolidWorks user community and Magic Wheelchair, in which it's a charity project that is very close to my heart, and I'm privileged to be involved in designing this part of the structure for this year's wheelchair costume for a child interested in Lego Ninjago. The reveal is set to take place this weekend, and I would be happy to see your impressions for that. Alright, so moving on to the main topic. From a used to normal computer user, the goal is to help you regain control on your personal computer, making your system globally efficient and reduce your time spent behind the screen, making your job faster, easier, and more organized. I'll be guiding you in steps for the current session, as I'll be happy to share my experiences with you in here. This session's content has been prepared and organized in collaboration with my colleague Carlos de la Torre and Cardiff University's School of Engineering. I would like to thank SolidWorks and Dassault Systems for inviting me as a speaker in the largest user group event ever, and I promise that the following 45 minutes will change your perspective of computers' abilities, as I will tweak your opinions from a used to Windows or Mac user to understand what has been going on in computer research from a rarely discussed perspective. To start with that, feel free to ask me questions, drop us your opinions in the chat below. Me and my team will be viewing your impressions and answering all your queries. The way we'd want to use our computers as engineers, graphic and product designers is a simple way with the least clicks and effort. The following topic is not explicitly targeted for computer scientists, programmers, and software enthusiasts. It's addressing everyone, literally everyone, that owns a computer and sits daily in front of it for more than 3 hours. It has been tested that implementing the techniques could reduce your work time by at least an hour a day. And count this for a month, it's a lot of minutes. And of course, who would like to spend more time working? It would change the way you're dealing with computers, and it would make you rethink how you haven't been already familiarized with the topic, optimizing your jobs and engraving a difference in your daily activities. Our discussion would start from the definition of a computer elegant design, explaining Unix philosophy of simplicity, comparing different operating systems, including various Linux distributions, and then we're going to implement the discussed elegant design, and conclude with methods for editing your text in Vim and later extremely faster than other conventional methods. Running over techniques to have your own professional way of presenting your reports and CVs that would impress report viewers and would give a sense of uniqueness to your work over theirs. I'll be guiding you through for the rest of the 40 minutes. Just grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and time to get started. The question starts from looking at the current devices in the market. Is there any usage for a conventional computer with all the current advancements? Look at the iPad Pro above. You can do so much with its new M1 chip, making it faster than majority of the laptops out there in the market. Remembering that it's not a computer, it just recently started competing in the following market. So, do you think it would be a replacement? If it could run office software, could send emails, web browsing. And talking about web browsing, even you can open SolidWorks through its 3D experience, in which SolidWorks, CATIA, Visualize, and Xshape all could be running without a need for an installed software. And previously, Adobe and other companies, they included the design applications on the App Store, making it smooth, easygoing with a stylus, and light to carry around. So would it take over the market in the next few years? That's the question. Operating systems, a massive topic not being hit by the community in a while, as over 96% of the users are using either Windows or Mac, leaving less than 4% running on Linux. However, if the majority of the people are using the mentioned systems, does that make it right? Not me. You'll be able to answer the following questions towards the end. Getting used to a graphical interface on a Windows, Mac, or iPad, it doesn't make you in control of what is happening behind the screen. You'd be pressing some buttons designed by the company's developers. Right, so I'm going round and revolving around the same point I started from. So which operating system is right for you? Unix systems is the answer, and in specifically Linux. Unix came into development in the early 70s, just a few years after the first ever computer was developed. And then FreeBSD, macOS, and Linux were derived across to the community. If you see, Windows is not there in the list, as the DOS was never based on Unix and has been designed differently from how a Unix system would run. However, looking at server statistics, Unix is more stable and it doesn't crash as often as Windows, so it requires less administration and maintenance. That's why most of the websites, our Amazon Cloud Storage and apps are hosted on Linux nowadays. And since Unix is great, looking at the options below, I can say FreeBSD is super complicated and tends to not get hardware support. Mac doesn't provide with much flexibility as it's a closed source OS, leaving us just with Linux. Out of all stakeholders in computation, only the end users use Windows, which is a tiny fraction, and the rest of the world, they just run on Linux. The Linux kernel is in its heart made mainly by contributions from Google, Samsung, etc. Basically, because it makes sense to have a common operating system, which is designed with efficiency from the bottom up, providing more eyes on an open source kernel, in meaning securities, bugs are fixed within a blink of an eye. The Unix philosophy focuses owning multiple applications, each working separately and doing a really good job on their own. Rather than having a modular app that includes many features but can't do any to an advanced level. Given an example here, have you ever wondered and looked at the Adobe Reader interface? It's so crowded, isn't it? Can you count the buttons available to the customer in a single click? But this makes it so confusing and horribly designed, as the company wants to include many features to its users, but it's not working well. Currently, Windows 11's animation and latest features are demanding for way higher minimum requirements in order to run the operating system smoothly. Still, with its continuous weekly updates that never ends, insecure and slow performance, for that and many more reasons, SolidWorks, that is currently just available on Windows devices, it's starting to expand to other operating systems. We can see that Dassault systems are moving towards making its software available across Linux distributions in the next few years. For now, their software, Abacus, CATIA, and Xshape, they're available on CentOS distros, and soon for the rest of their software. Linux distributions, they vary. There's some that are commercially backed distributions, such as Fedora and Ubuntu, in addition to different community-driven ones, such as Debian and Arch Linux. To be honest with you, Linux hardware is not hard. It just, however, it's the programmers that are working in developing the distributions. They're trying to make these as desktops as usable in a sense to try and copy different operating systems. And the closer they get to so, the worse and worse it gets. To make things simpler, Ubuntu is the most commonly used by the public because of its easiness and wide support on the web. However, Arch goes slightly advanced as it drives the user to install Arch Linux from scratch, providing wider user flexibility, in which comprehensive step-by-step guides are available and would take you along its installation. Along with the installation techniques, YouTube videos, if you're asking for some help from the Arch Wiki content, derived from the Arch Linux, some other types also branch. Giving examples, so as discussed, Arch Linux is hard for building from scratch. However, to get its package manager and facilities, you've got to install it. And that's what Manjaro came and did. So Manjaro, they managed all the hassle of installation. And based on Arch Linux, they're trying to fit both benefits of easy installation plus the advantages that you would get from Arch without the hassle in installing it. I can say Manjaro a few years ago, it was a good setup. However, with its recent updates and trying to copy different system, with its layup, with adding different package managers on top of its default Arch package manager, this is making conflicts and crashes. As both package managers, you can't have two package managers running at the same time. And as a new user, obviously you'd be trying to follow some advice from the internet, right? Where things would stop working, as some advice you would get from Reddit would be given to one method and other to another. So you don't know what is happening. There's no point of adding such difficulty in a way to call it a feature. For that reason, I'm not going to be suggesting the following distribution, and instead I would suggest POP. A definition for a usable desktop environment is one that can operate without layers of complications, simple, single package manager, single desktop environment, and that's all. I got to note that all Linux distributions are free to use and safe. The safest of all would be BSD, but it's really hard to use and just serves a niche user market. Linux is not a single edition. Many organizations customize theirs to feed their needs. If I've mentioned 5 distributions, there are around 600 available there in the market, where 500 of them are in available active development. Even Microsoft finally released their own distribution, where some of their servers at the moment they start to run on Linux systems, specifically ones related to robot security and communication. When using Windows, you got the whole operating system as a package. However, in Linux, you have the option to either install using all default settings or pick different styles for the system you're running. An example would be choosing your desktop environment or method of booting into the system. When it comes to your choice, it would depend on how much you're willing to learn. I personally stick to a minimalistic view over a feature-rich one. Looking at the following desktop, it makes everything look super complicated and messy and not organized, where you don't wanna end up here. My preference of a dynamic, simple tiling manager would be Pop Shell or DWM licensed under MIT's research. Pop's installation is Ubuntu-based, the one shown on the left-hand side of the slide, that could be freely installed from the web. Its installation process could require less than 9-10 clicks and is so simple. An alternative would be installing Ubuntu and then installing a Pop Shell on top of it, which would eventually provide you with the same outcome, but with more steps. So both Ubuntu and Pop OS, which is also based on Ubuntu, they come by default with a GNOME desktop environment, which can be easily run and most importantly with non-overlapping settings. On the other hand, installing a DWM would be an option for advanced users or after a few months of usage if you really need an extra system flexibility. At the beginning, we were discussing that we need a security or we need an easy finish and a way to minimize our mouse clicks, as constantly moving your hand to a mouse and then keyboard back and forth consumes time and it's a lot of hassle. I would say Pop OS would provide you with the solution. Also, as to not restrict yourself from using any software, if you're not sure, you could permanently switch into the following system. You could have a dual operating system on your PC or run Linux on a virtual machine for the time being. Here is an example how the tiling could be turned on, and that option doesn't reset after a boot or restart and makes everything looks brilliant. Another would be a DWM setup, example for advanced users, in which they would choose to keep their desktop clean, without any buttons, icon-free, distraction-free. Everything is run through a black screen, a terminal called, and a set key binding shortcuts. Using a DWM, you can set up a similar desktop of an extreme level of advancement, in which you're halfway through using a Pop OS, as similar key bindings are used in both. Summary of desktop environments, I see that Pop OS would allow everything to be either controlled by mouse clicks or key bindings, serving different user levels. At first, I strongly advise to use Pop, and as you get used to the system right after you shift from Windows, in few months you can just have a try on DWM. Linux with the following build is efficient, saving battery with no tabs problem. Even on your browser, there are extensions that could be installed to limit your computer from opening new tabs. When a new tab is pressed, it would instantly turn into a new window. However, won't this make the workflow messier as you have more windows open? Your whole desktop is full with windows, not Windows operating system. The answer would be no, because Pop or DWM, whichever you're using, it would just neatly tile your desktop, leaving everything on screen without any overlapping or without missing spaces. And especially with your ability to create multiple desktops, this would make it even easier, splitting your desktops, first desktop filled with your design apps, second for Steam and entertainment, and so on, maybe third for Netflix. If you're using Linux, you got to accommodate with its ecosystem, where Vim lies at the heart of that place. Moving to Vim, a text editor for Unix system, in where each English letter got a functionality. Careful that functions, they differ when the letter is upper or lowercase. Vim got 3 modes, a normal, visual, and insert mode, and switching between the option is often needed. I can say the most key button pressed is the escape, as it goes back to the normal mode. An example would be you can select and delete a word in a bracket or quotation, ready to type whatever you want to type, just using 3 letters. In the slides example, you can see CIB, change in bracket, easy. It would highlight the words in brackets and put you in insert mode to replace it. Simple, isn't it? You can also record the macros of adding a word every other line and applying it to 300 times in just few character clicks. There are millions of ways to boost your typing, even if you're not a fast typer. It's also allowable to swap different keyboard keys to serve your comfort. Some people find the caps lock a close key that they don't use, and since they are Vim users, they type the escape button often, and it's far beyond their hands reach, so they'd rather just swap them. After learning about Vim, you can have it installed as a plugin to your Chrome browser using the Vimium extension. You could install it in Windows as gvim, which is a bit unsuggested, as it's just taken a single part of an entire ecosystem. But I can say it would work. Here, what you see are some examples of how it would function and how fast you could edit, either by a visual block selection on the right side that we're going to come back to in the next examples, which could not be performed on regular notepads. And one last thing to point out before I move on, there's NeoVim as well, which is Vim with some additional features and plugin options. Is so much similar and almost the same, and the same much of help. So if you want to add some extra plugins, just install NeoVim, and if you just want to use it clean, NeoVim would act as Vim. On the left, another slide shows how the Vimium plugin operates on Chrome, allowing the usage of Vim keys to control the browsers without the need of a mouse. Where on the right side, there are 2 Vim open files in a Linux DWM environment, which is quite advanced for programming users. Looking at some practical examples to see if it's worth your time to learn Vim or not. If you're looking at the following file names created by Luke Smith, you can see that they look messy, and rephrasing the following files would take so much time if you want to do it a line by another. From this snapshot, a different perspective you would approach would be using Vim, in which you'd start by block selecting the first few words. We block selected them. We hit the delete character D, and then we can start by recording a macro, which would insert the word episode at the beginning of a line. Then we would apply the following for the next 25 lines, or all the lines that we have. Now we're left with episode 1, 2, 3, etc. Next would be searching for all the underscore keys and replacing them by space using sed. And then going back to the first line as by typing GG, because we've gone all the way down to the end of the file, we can start by searching to a square bracket where it writes 720p. We can delete around the bracket as to how we've learned a few slides ago. Then the next bracket after it, we delete around square bracket another time in the same line, and then applying this to all lines. Look how simple. And applying this, you can even shorthand episode to E, making the file name shorter, and here's your job just done in less than 3 minutes. Reading EO4 gateway shuffle.mkv, for example, you're left with the episode number, name, and format. One more example could be studied, and a similar way would be implemented to simplify the following file. Another tool worth mentioning is LaTeX, a markup language used for scientific reporting. It doesn't require in the sense that you see what you get, like a Word or a normal notepad processor. It functions in a way that you would write, and then you press a button to convert you into a PDF file and return. Searching out different web compilers, hands down, Overleaf is the best out there. You could just visit their URL, you can check what they have from documentation, files, and videos. In comparison to Word, there's no best option if it overtakes it or not. The answer would be depending on the case. If you have a 1-2 paragraphs job, it's obviously faster to do such task using Word. However, in case you have a report to submit with references, figures, and tables, LaTeX is 100% the go-to option, as some LaTeX capabilities could not be found in Microsoft Word, and it's beyond its capabilities. So I can say as the document's complexity increases, LaTeX capabilities would cope with that in a better way. Its syntax is super basic, as shown on the right side of the screen, easy and highly looked at in job interviews. As I re-emphasize the point that it's a markup language, it's not a programming language, which doesn't mean programming in any sense. Here is another example of how it would run, and books, equations, and figures could be also referenced. Comparing your learning efficiency of LaTeX could get even quicker if you report in some documents on LaTeX. See how smooth the report could carry on. And with the Vim plugin over that, absolutely impressive. If you weren't thinking of learning Vim for the first example shown, it's worth now for LaTeX. See, everything connects in that ecosystem. Explaining the cloud overleaf service that I just explained, it would submit your compiling job through the web. So you press a button to recompile, it sends your information to the overleaf servers, it compiles it on their CPUs, and return back with the PDF results, which for massive projects could take up to 5 seconds to run, and for various runs, that's more and more time spent. Concluding to my topic sayings, as a start, run it as overleaf, and according to your preference, you can put with or without Vim plugin. And afterwards, as soon as you get used to installing programs on Linux, it's preferably to compile your text files on your own Linux system, which makes the process way faster and it doesn't require an internet connection. Linux capabilities never ends. It's made for everyone, literally for everyone. It could be used as simple as it can be even simpler than Windows and Mac, and could be super complicated that would operate fully without mouse clicks, making your progress extremely the fastest. So you can begin with it step by step, and starting with Pop! OS and then learning through Unix tools. This would get you all the way to run DWM in the end. All mentioned Vim, LaTeX and Linux distributions are free and open source software. Probably it would take you a few weeks to accommodate with this new environment. However, it's a journey that is worth learning. And the point you feel you've achieved it is when you stop your rely on Windows and Office and stick into your new operating system. I get frequently asked the question, how long will it take to get familiarized with the key bindings, Unix tools, including Vim, shell scripting, and the general ecosystem? To be honest, everything would depend on your willingness to learn. But from a personal experience and perspective, to use the following tools at a good level, making you not rely on a different operating system, I would say Vim needs around 2 weeks to understand how its macros operate, features, and practicing its letter combinations. LaTeX would take around a week or so, and if you're already familiar with any markup language in the market, such as HTML, XML, this would boost your learning as well. And finally, to get familiarized with Linux, Unix tools, and the whole procedure, it would require you another 2 weeks. So overall, with all the buffers and pluses, everything discussed should not take more than 6 weeks. And of course, with practice, you'd be able to progress faster and faster. And so you dig into the following branches, you would find so many interesting details that are worth understanding you never knew about. Last topic for today would be on cloud systems and how a cloud system works. So as you open Google Drive as an example, you can log in, store your information on Google servers and access them from anywhere in the world. However, why won't you just host them on your own server? Haven't you thought about that? A potential branch from the learned skills could be hosting your own cloud system without allowing a third-party access or any company to have a look at your data, giving you maximum privacy as never before. And implementing such an activity would not take from you more than a few days, as soon as you're already familiarized with the Unix tools previously discussed. In other words, rather than logging into your iCloud or Google Drive, you could just get into your website and store all the information on your own cloud access. And this would grant you access from anywhere in the world, same as Google Drive, but better. Not giving out your information to Google or any other company, providing you with extra capabilities and freedom. Note that this doesn't require any programming language or web development skills. It just needs you to understand Unix tools. I'll leave you with my details below and a QR code to my e-portfolio, and I'm also happy to share with you my DWM configuration file if you'd like to view or save for future purposes. It's based on Luke Smith's build and it's there in my GitHub account. And yeah, and that's all for me this evening. For any questions, I'm free to answer all your queries in the comment sections below, or just drop me an email after the session. By now, you should have a clear look at what is it like to be operating in a Unix environment. This could boost your work, or one day maybe get you advanced into the world of Linux administration and engineering. And I would just leave you with that, with the time zones crew chief. Goodbye.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fadi. Again, this session here, UTC +8, has been Reclaim Your Computer Efficiency. And again, Fadi did a great job of taking us through some other operating systems, some deep details into Unix and installing Ubuntu. And again, I think those things are becoming more relevant as the 3D Experience platform is rolling out and people are using our design tools, XDesign, Xshape, in a browser. And we know that a browser is really operating system agnostic. Some of the things we've seen today, some of the advanced design of our SLUGME 6 speed racer have all been done in the cloud without again, the need to worry about what operating system. They were designed in XDesign and Xshape, some really powerful cloud-based tools. So again, we're here 19 hours in, having a great time. We really appreciate everybody joining us. SLUGME 6 has been fantastic. Please fill out the survey. Please let us know what you think about the event, and continue to chat with us in the live chat here. So Fadi showed this slide as well, and again, I just wanted to reference it one more time that after today's event, even during the event, we want you to visit swuggen.org. Find a group closest to you. If you're not already a member, of your local SOLIDWORKS user group, find the group closest to you and sign up for the next meeting. And if you're not a group member and you don't already know, again, where a group is, or maybe you can't find a group close to you if there's not one, you could also consider becoming a leader if there's not a group in your region. We have a really cool map here at solidworks.com/swuggen map where you can search and see where all the closest user groups are. We have a really simple application, solidworks.com/user group leader application, where you can fill that out and request to be a user group leader. So we want you to look into the network a little more closely. If you don't know much more about it, you can certainly reach out to us if you have any questions. Again, thank you for your time. And with that, we're going to toss it back to our race announcing team in Waltham at SOLIDWORKS headquarters. And we can't wait to see what session is next. Thanks. Bye.